So, hi. I got to see if this works well. I think so. But I don't hear myself well. No, maybe I should change something. I think you hear me well, though. That's more important. So, yeah. I don't really like that, though. Maybe I change the volume. And I hope it won't, like, scream someone's ears and... Or that it becomes, like, round sounds. Okay. First, I had some thoughts in mind. Hey, someone. That I thought about previously. I've talked about this before, but by the way, from my previous video, I talked about the Métis, those who are native and or mixed with those. What are they called? I don't know what the others are called. Invaders, no. Anyways, settlers maybe or something. Anyways, they are called Métis over there. And there are some actually, I thought that it was only natives that had treaties. Here in Sweden, we have not many rights, and they don't either. There is a very weird system which causes conflict also in between natives, because in a certain village you are allowed to have a specific amount of reindeer, for example, and that is in itself, that sort of law brings conflict in itself, obviously, because that is like money. You in this certain confined area, you people, your groups or you families together can earn this much, and yeah, it becomes like it's a sort of, as I see it, it's like preset to become a conflict situation. Anyway, so what was I going to say? Yeah, here there are. I don't know. I can't say that there are no rights for. We don't call it Métis here, but there are those. For example, myself, my grandma is my father's mother was a Sami, and so yeah, I guess I could say I call myself also Sami actually, although I don't have the culture too much. But then again, my dad, he is pretty much living. We grew up outdoors. It's not that he also had this culture because it was banned. It wasn't allowed, and the language wasn't allowed, or the yoik, the sort of singing wasn't allowed, and a lot of things were banned. The drums, all kinds of those shamanic ways. Um, yeah, as everywhere, I guess. But yeah, so they were treated as slaves very badly. So the ancestors on that side. Anyways, yeah. What do I want to say about that? Yeah, what I said in the previous video. I haven't slept a lot. My cat have kept me awake tonight, almost all night. She does that a lot of nights actually, but she's an old lady, and she decides everything. She rule me anyway. So yeah, they actually do in Canada have treaties also for some Métis people, and they got their specific, like I guess fishing rights, hunting rights, or some things like that. And the government have given out false what do they call them? Yeah, treaties. Yeah, with false like cards or whatever to those certain people who are not Métis. So they're, I mean, purposely, apparently, as I've heard about it. I can't know exactly aside from what I've heard. And then, I mean, the 20th September now, they will demonstrate in Ottawa. And it's said to be peaceful. I think there are a lot of some diversity there, though. It seems, because they will use this flag, the Thunderbird flag, which also have a swastika. But that was previous to the World War II, and also it was used with the colors of red and yellow. I think it was, yeah. So red was for the heart and the love, and yellow for the sun, or our illuminated nature, I would assume, the spirit, sort of, our energy. Anyways, their energy, I mean, in that case. But anyways, so, but they include everyone in this. I mean, the land belongs to everyone living there, but not to those economical forums that just want to use the resources for gain and so on. So the reason they protest now is to protect the land, and also protect their own rights, of course, but also nature itself, the health of nature, so to speak. Anyways, yeah, as far as I understood it, but that will be, I will see what happens in Ottawa, because there is the way they used this swastika was like a positive symbol previously on a flag, a Thunderbird flag there, and apparently there were some who dismissed this thing that it should be red and yellow, because if you use it black, it stands for death, for example, and so on. And that is there seem to be those who don't care about that. I don't know how it will go, though. They seem to be very determined, and also there are many groups of natives in Canada that gather together to demonstrate there, and also pushed for their rights, also to actually expose who gave those false rights to people, calling them Métis, which weren't, and so on, because that have caused some problems. That means that either they would like maybe take them away totally, or give full rights to everyone, let's say, calling them that, or so on. Then the rights to the land wouldn't be protected, because other interests are at play then, whomever they gave those false ones to. So they want that exposed, as I understood it. And there is a lot of other things that I don't really, I don't have a clue aside from what I've heard now. But I'm curious. And also, as I talked about previously, being having ancestors being natives of Sweden, I thought about myself. I've thought about that for years, many years, to actually write to the Council of the Sami people, and to have a full, what is it called now? Well, to be considered Sami in the sense that I could also vote in their, yeah, and so on. It's not the vote itself that I'm after. It's rather the confirmation of who. I mean, they took this away from my ancestors. They took the rights to their language and the rights to all kinds of things. And I want to honor my ancestors by embracing it. But yeah, I also thought first, when I listened to these things going on in Ottawa, or in Canada overall, I thought that maybe since I don't live in that, I mean, that culture isn't part of mine, although somewhat pieces of it slipped in through my grandma, though. I would say she was a Christian, and that was like her focus. I mean, she learned to be. But at the same time, she did certain things that, in like as if she didn't. Let's say she just had certain more magical things going that she wouldn't talk about. Like she just did them when needed, and so on. Tiny things that I feel came from that side of the line. Let's say that she learned from her parents and so on, I guess. Anyways, but she was very strict. She didn't play cards. She not strict, but she was like a sort of those things that they had learned when they were younger, I guess. That on Sundays at least you couldn't play cards or stuff. And she would help though. She was standing behind my granddad and tell him what cards to play. She was super cute. Oh, I love her. Very loud. Aside from when she went to doctor or church or priest, then she had been taught this humble version of herself that was very far from her natural ways. She was very loud and very warm. And she had the best hugs. And we had a very, very strong and special connection. Anyway, what to say about that? Yeah, so now when I heard about these those who are actually Métis over there, they had certain treaties. We don't have that, and there is, as I said, there aren't a lot of rights for the Sami people overall here that are preserved. But yeah, then I realized that maybe that should be the case. Also, if I don't have the money for that, but I thought about that sometimes to actually have those or find out what kind of those traditional clothes, and they're quite expensive oftentimes, and you have to do them in a special way. And there were in certain areas they had certain colors, stuff like that. So I guess it's quite easy to figure what my ancestors used, but I don't. I've never thought about it before, since I mean it was quite I guess this latest year that another woman, Sami woman, told me that, like, why shouldn't you, like? And I never actually considered it because I felt that I would like step on someone's toes, embracing that. But why? It's my ancestors. It's my heritage, and far back. I mean, the few few ancestors on that. I mean, that's my granddad and my dad then, and aside from that, on that side, all the previous ones before then are some. I mean, I don't know for how long back, but it's a bunch. It's a lot of them. So I mean, this is a huge part of also who I am, and not only that, also since I feel that I was born with this shamanic that is called noids in their tradition. This is part of me. This have always been a part of me, and I've always known it. I didn't have words for it, and sometimes people also argue that you shouldn't use shaman because that was what those what are they called, anthropologists or some people use when they met those in Siberia, I guess, then, because they are the only ones that are actually have been called shamans in that sense, that word. But then again, everyone knows what that means, like that you can see both the spiritual and the physical world, that you can travel in different, I mean, dimensions, let's call it that then, and you can heal. There are certain things that like comes with the title, and to me, since I communicate with the spirit world all the time, more or less, they have said that it's fine to use that, so I use that. The word noid, on the other hand, I don't use, because that, first of all, they haven't said that I should, and also it feels like although that is a word that comes from the tradition itself, aside from someone else from the outside putting a label onto someone. But anyways, I just feel that that belongs to the historical. I mean, also the word shaman actually belongs to previous traditions and so on that I don't belong to. But there are also those who are like new shamans, and everyone understands that if you are alive now and call yourself a shaman, you are not those ancient shamans. That's kind of clear. So and so yeah, I don't think that's a problem though. But the word "noi" to me, that is such a sacred word also to me, and also it's many of those traditions I don't have. I mean, if I would have been born in that culture, I mean, at least previous back in time before everything was damned, let's say, then I would have probably they would have picked up that quite early that I have these gifts, and that then I would have been taught from the beginning how to use them. Although I've learned, and I've been seeking ways to learn, but at the same time, yeah, I feel like both the fact that I don't know the language. I always was singing also when I was a kid. My mom said that she didn't see me; she heard where I was because I was going around singing. So I feel that also the yoik that is called, I would love to learn how to do that. I can do it for fun, let's say, by myself also, and I can connect doing so. But I feel that is also very, very connected to the language itself that I don't have. I could learn that too, somewhat. There are fragments at least that can be patched together, I guess. But and there are also little bit differences in what sort of Sami language there is. But I think it's easier to do that in that language. It's like fits perfectly as when I hear it, aside from using Swedish, for example, or even English. Like to maybe I should learn. I've thought about it for a long, long time. As I mentioned before, one of my best friends, she came from when I grew up and went to school from her parents from Yugoslavia. She was born here though, but and she had these classes to learn her home language. Like in school, she had a certain. It was her mom though who taught, but she had certain times she went to those classes. And we with Sami ancestry, there was no such thing as to be able to choose that. Even then, I thought that was strange. Although no one in my family or so on talked about this. I mean, it was just something I was aware of, but it wasn't talked about a lot. I just knew that that was the ancestors, and I've always been very curious at everything. So, yeah, I went on here on a tangent for long. I don't know what to say more about that. Yeah, I just want to. I think maybe I'm heading that way, but if I would ever use that language, I would have to learn it from someone who have that knowledge and have learned. And I don't think it's the same thing as being initiated like such, but yeah, I wouldn't take it on as, let's say, a title or something without being given it. I guess spirits could give it to me. They haven't so far, but I guess they could, and then I would. I mean, they are my allies. They guide me and they help to heal others through me and so on. Um, but it's a difference, a huge difference actually between. I also do. I was seeking for this, the more earthy ways. But then I found Wicca or witchcraft, and that is there are similarities also in shamanic practices, but there are also differences. And so they go together somewhat, but they also differ. And I know some of that. I learn also still certain things. I think you always keep learning, actually, also all the time in communication with spirits and also doing mediumship readings. That is very different from the shamanic things. So, so yeah, I know a lot, but there are also a lot that I haven't learned yet, and maybe that is things that I want to or will. We will see what happens. They have so far kept in the I can see certain ancestors, I think it is sometimes, but they stay, let's say, in the shadows. Not in the shadows, but they step back a bit. I think they wait maybe also. But I can see them sometimes, and maybe I also can see what they're so far. As I said, they are a little bit in the distance and also not super clear, but I can see them, and sometimes I also see clothes, but we will see how it goes. Maybe they show also a kind of let's say costume that they wore and that I could use. I don't know. We will see. If that is meant to be, we are in this time now, and I don't know if that is something that is healing for everyone. Because also I like when I listen to these in Canada, also they don't mean that they are better or so on than others living there or anything. It's more about stopping the division, and also that we all need to care for the land, for nature. We all need to protect it from just economical interests that just don't care or have any reverence for life itself, almost, So, and that is for everyone. That is not just for the natives, but I do believe, yeah, more and more so. I feel that a lot of what can turn things around comes through natives. Yeah. The knowledge and the wisdom that is kept in various traditions. So, yeah, I read a lot of things that I don't know the source to, so I won't go into that. I just read about certain things about the Aboriginals in Australia, that they are the oldest humans, let's say. One thing, this is maybe not fun, but to me it was fun though. I don't know if this is connected actually at all. I don't know why I even go this far. Maybe someone get offended by this. I'm sorry if anyone does, but to me it's just a fun fact, because I just came to think about that now. That apparently they, if it's true though, they stem from Africa, and then yeah, that people are the oldest. Anyways, they don't have those. What are they called now? In the forehead, you have like holes. No, not holes, but I mean there are not cavities. Is that the right word? But open spaces in the skeleton, let's say, or inside. And I thought that when I was sick one time, many years ago, this was, I had some cold, or it was like pressure in my head. So I thought, oh, they did some X-ray checking that, and then they were very surprised and said, "Well, you don't have those." In Swedish, it's called bihålor. Then I don't have them. So much more solid bone structure that also those Aboriginals they don't have those either in the forehead. So that was kind of fun to me. They were very surprised. It's not very common. So yeah. Anyways, what else? Yeah, I don't know. But when I talk about it, I feel like a pull. When I talk about it, I feel a pull towards that. But as I said, I'm interested in so many things, and I've communicated in many ways with many uh, spiritual, many spirits and traditions, and from various cultures and various times, and that can become super confusing if you do that too much in a very short time, at least. So for a while, I really needed to stay here and now in this culture and nothing else, like to not take in all influences at the same time. But some things are good to bring back, though. What? Oh, something just beeping. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I just think that is very good for everyone, and we all have pagan ancestry. Yeah. Anyways, there's no one here, so I can keep rambling. There are maybe no cards if no one comes in. But what I was talking about, and I hear that sometimes, and how can I say this then? To say it in a good way. I don't know. Well, after half an hour, I get to what I was thinking about. And I tried to start talking about this, but then someone came in and wanted cards. So I will try to get to the fact of this then. I do believe that, it seems to be various ways to view Christianity, and it's very ingrained, let's say, in both the US, obviously, but also apparently somewhat in Canada, in a much, maybe I shouldn't say fanatic, but in a different way, let's say, than at least here in Sweden. Maybe it's very different in the Vatican and Rome, but no, in Europe, I think it's different overall, but I don't know all of Europe. But here it's very different from over there, because it's like, yeah, it's very different just. And therefore, I also think we may have, we can take a step back and watch it in some sense. I mean, there is danger, then it's very easy to almost like fall into a fanatic trap and using religious using a religion overall to, I should be more awake awake in many ways maybe, but I mean I should be not so slow when I talk. What do I want to say? I want to say that, yeah, I'm not saying that it's not true, certain things also, because I think that there is some truth shining through certain words, or through maybe most religions also, that you can pick up, and that can also be liberating and freeing and loving and all kinds of good things. But there is this other ditch, I feel, that is to not think clearly, but be fanatic about something. Yeah, and that is a ditch. I think it happens here also, but I think it's easier to see if we can be able to take a step back and not be too drawn into a sense of danger and chaos. And sometimes that's impossible because that's so in our face, and then that's a period of time. But I think that is about development. I think that is not, it's not a mirror of what God is, if you say, or the divine. It's rather a mirror of where we are in our development, or in our working through our fears, working through our shadows also. understanding who we are. I mean, this is just my view. I'm not saying this is correct or in any kind of way. That's just what I think about it. Because we need that. We so desperately then needs some parental figure to protect us. Because what if that wasn't there? Then I mean, that is not even a question in that level. It's rather a must, because otherwise we wouldn't survive. How could we, like, yeah, that's like the feeling, I guess. And therefore we project that both protective God figure, someone who defend us, like, but also someone that is that judges very harshly. You know, those biblical stories about the certain things that I've read about, like there are huge I don't know if they were steel, but you know, those pins to the tent, they stuck them through the eyes and heads of people. I don't know. There is a lot of, I won't go into all this stuff. I haven't read all of it even, but there is a lot of violence and a lot of judgment. And yeah, so, and that is also very much triggered when we are in fight flight mode, and that is the oldest part of our brain. That's a reptile brain that get triggered in these ways, and the response is to view. I mean, I talked about the medicine wheel also, and this is too far on this subject, but anyways, as I work with. And then as I view it, and as some describe it, there are various kinds of medicine wheels, and that is also something they mainly use in those areas of the world. But from the Andean tradition, they spread it to us in West as well. But there you see in the South, where you mostly identify with the body and the senses. That is how you like perceive and feel that the world is. You don't really identify with your spirit or soul or so on. But anyways, on that level, you see God as something outside of yourself. And then when you move to that was the South, the West in that medicine wheel, with the mind and the emotions and so on, then you start to realize that God is also within. It's not that we lose the previous perception level or what we experience. We just grow in awareness. And then at the north of the medicine wheel, which is the soul level, then we can see that spirit or the divine can be expressed through us. And that's where the shaman work, even, yeah, other mystical parts, let's say, paths. Yeah. And then at the east, it's spirit, it's pure energy. And that is also the eagle, by the way. And the south, the snake, they in that medicine wheel, but you can also use from wherever area you live, the closest ones connected. And that is positive symbol, though, the snake. And also in the west, the jaguar or puma. And in the north, it's a hummingbird. And in the east, it's the eagle and also condor. But in the east, it's a spirit. And then we realize we are God. But you can't jump. Hey, someone is here. You can't jump from south to east. That's impossible. It becomes just an ego thing. It's just not it's not an illumination. It's not an experience. It becomes something, even from the west, from the mind perspective only, or emotional perspective. That is not being one. You are just dividing yourself as something more or something else, and that becomes strange. Anyways, so I believe that when you hold on to the perception of God outside of you, or someone else's. You can have a map like in the medicine wheel or other maps. I'm not saying that is the best for everyone or anything, but if you feel that the first of all, maybe that there is a right way, and also that there is something from the outside, like a book or anything, that describe what God is, then you probably are in the south or the west in your development of the spirit, or of your being, of your awareness. You are not aware of what else you are yet, maybe. I'm not saying this must be true, but I believe that sometimes we don't. I mean, all of these levels are good, though. We need the instinctual, protective, also aggressive sometimes nature we have. But if we experience many dangers or threats around us, we then we then go into this whole, everything becomes a fight almost, or a struggle. And to survive in that environment or in that perception, we need to something that protects us. So in that consciousness or awareness, we create these us and them situations, or enemies, like, or so on. And it's about revenge rather than forgiveness. And we need to strike out before others do, to protect ourselves. So, but the interesting thing is that since whatever we call the divine, then still it punishes, it or he, oftentimes called she, whomever, punishes some of, or even tortures some of its children that they created, let's say. And then at the same time is called like good. And how does that even make any sense? But it does, from this level of awareness, which is the most narrow way of viewing things. And that is not a judge. That is not a judging those who see things that way. It's just we have all evolved or discovered things. We have all perceived things like that, if not when we were very small. So it's always this whole the sort of God that is protecting a certain group of people and hurting others, or torturing them, even punishing them. And if we think of it as in those terms of a father figure, now I just hear George Michael. Anyway, so then how does that really work? The only way it works in such a dysfunctional family situation, let's say, is to avoid to see that this is not right, to protect our sense of survival, and that we need that connection to that father to survive. So therefore we aren't allowed to see anything else. Our psychological defenses get so mixed up that we don't understand that this is harmful, and we need to get out of that by liberating ourselves from that narrow view, from that need to be protected from that punishing God or what it is. Sometimes it's, I mean, we sometimes make other people gods in our world, in our lives as well. People who don't treat us well. And we still get into that trap psychologically. And the only way out is to be I mean, our wish to grow needs to be stronger than our fears. So we are like trapped in a very, very strange place there. So this works very much in correlation with the reptile brain. I'm not saying that whole religions just work in this way, but certain views in those at least. There are also mystics in all kinds of, almost all, I think, anyway. Maybe not a few, but in most religions there are also a mystic path within it. Oftentimes not so very accepted though by certain ones who just hold on to the what is it called? Yeah, anyways, the words themselves, like, but the mystics in various traditions usually don't have conflicts with each other because they aren't so hung up on that outer things and not as afraid. So, but the reptile brain is not logical, so therefore this doesn't have to match up logically because this is about survival and those strong emotions. So, and this also goes for whatever goes on in society. Sometimes we can make that our God and not be willing to see through, or be able to, rather. I don't think it's about willingness. I think it's about what we have been taught and what we fear. And then it doesn't have to make sense because it's too dangerous. It's a too dangerous world to live in if we didn't have that protection, whatever it is, a jab, I don't know, whatever it is, you know. We have to trust that, although however illogical it seems. Yeah. So we feel as if it's, even if it's not, we feel as if it's a situation of life and death. As for example, in divorce situations, so somehow people can sometimes start to behave as their worst enemies. Like, actually, the other day, not that it matters, but my previous husband, we have met and said a few words sometimes since then, but not too much. I'm more so in contact with his son though, but my bonus kid that I always felt a strong connection to. But anyway, yeah, he actually like stopped me. Hello, 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 and then leaned forward. Usually not. So, but that's good. It took a few years though, so I guess it's good now. Anyways, but anyways, how people can then also behave however idiotic and create, like, whatever, you know how it can be. You have heard, I guess, situations like that, how it can shift, like, and then there is like those laws, those strict laws, like that we have to kind of trust that someone would judge us fairly, this God judge, so that things would be just in the world if we feel that we are innocently accused and so on. and we would like reach that if we hang on to those rules or those ideas, that we will be that will benefit us, or we will given sort of a reward almost for that, you know. And then we also believe very much that we are right and others are wrong on this level. So and also the fact that we want others or our opponents to be punished. So we kind of need that, because we don't know how to make ourselves feel safe if that is not true. So, but there are many problems in this, and one thing is that people do get victims for disease, tragedies, or violence, even those we thought should be then protected by this God. But still, we feel like triumphant then every time we get away from some danger or survive a crisis or so on. And like celebrate if our then enemies lose in some way or another. That shows that the powers of the heavens are on our side, let's say. So it's a symbol almost, or a correlation to like an aggressive father figure, yeah. So we can't, on this level of perception, we cannot, because of this huge fear, because there is such a deep, strong trigger, we cannot see or make sense of it anyways. Rather than just see we have to survive and how to do that. We can't question it, like that would be too dangerous. We would like fall into this bottomless pit kind of if we did then. So, but eventually on this level also, we start to ask questions. We start to wonder what, like, so after this survival mode, which we can stay in for a long time and even not understanding what it is, and also for others. There is this Christian friend. I have a few that I've had for a long, nun, and someone who became a priest or so in the Swedish church. That is more so a shaman now. But anyways, they didn't judge my path of witchcraft and whatnot. But there were those like rather in those they call like free churches here in Sweden. Anyways, that actually were so very, still maybe are, they were so worried for my survival. I understand that it came from a place of, well, both love and fear, let's say. They feared so much without trying to understand what I did or anything. And they kind of were so scared that I would, well, let's say, end up in then hell or something. So constantly trying to convince me in various ways to do differently. I'm very afraid of things like even yoga, or how that would be dangerous. Like, so there are like dangers everywhere. And this path can go on for a lifetime, of course, also. So, but we identify very much on our body or our physical being and the surroundings that some people are brought up or meet this in a crisis or something, and that must be true. We cannot look outside of these ideas, because then we would challenge almost like the whole order of the universe, and that may backlash, let's say. So we aren't allowed to do that in that on that level. So even if this is very harsh, that feels easier than being without purpose, because this gives also a purpose or a meaning, that, or we give ourselves that, I think. But yeah, and it also asks of people to endure and keep on keeping on, like always work. Like it takes um, it becomes a way of making that purposeful, or uh, pretend that it is, if you say so. And this vindictiveness of this god, or this how unpredictable it can be, that is like something that can't be really solved. And therefore there's the whole um what is that word then, emphasis anyways, what you shine the light on is on the sin. On this level, you focus all your energy on what is done wrong and what is dangerous, and so on. It's also, when you talk about the medicine wheel in the West, that is where you also, in the South, first of all, that is a lot about healing also, and so on, also the physical and so on. But in the West, it's very much about taking away weeds in the garden, so to speak. And when you come, so that is about looking into our fears, our shadows, stuff like that. And in the North, then we can start to just rather plant seeds than keep looking at those weeds all the time, because we won't get a beautiful garden by just concentrating on all the negatives all the time like that. So yeah. So the focus is very much not on what we can create that is wonderful, or so on, the positives, let's say, but rather on what should be punished, and so on, those who are not obedient enough, or so on, or someone who wants to control without being questioned, where it is not allowed to wonder why. And so we should just, on this level, we should just accept that whatever it is, if it's a person or if it's an establishment of sorts, or government, I don't know, or God, whatever it is, the religion sort of things, we should just accept that this is what knows the best, and this is where the power is, and these words, they are law. We should not be able to question it. That's kind of part of this way of viewing things. We need to be held as dependent children, because that's the only way others can govern us. That's the only way others can keep the power. And on this level, we don't understand that these sort of religions may be created from tyrannical, power hungry people, or may have changed into that, although there are core things in there that may be good. If we are not allowed to question, or gain the same sort of knowledge and so on, then there is something shady going on, and also we have to be watchful when we go into that ditch ourselves sometimes, whatever that is related to get very irrational in our harshness or anger. So yeah, so it's very much about this whole sin or disobedience or ignorance. And there is always fear because we can never know for sure if we are saved or accepted. We need to like live in that apprehension of if it's okay, like sort of. And in the tradition of Christianity or the Genesis story or the paradise story with the snake there, the snake is the one that promises a world of consciousness and independence and ability to make decisions from your own awareness. And that is what tell us to grow, because it in many traditions that is considered not evil or anything like that, but rather wisdom. And that is also the snake is walking belly to belly with Mother Earth and feel her pulse, her beat, the beat of her heart on his body. I mean, the closeness to nature and everything that lives. So eventually, and this is also sometimes seen as a female goddess, and that is also the femininity is very dangerous on many times on this level of perception. So that needs to be controlled, like, or yeah. Anyways, eventually, none of us in our own evolution, we cannot avoid wanting to grow from this. This is like where we start, so to speak, in our spiritual journey. And eventually we cannot resist the temptation to understand more. So maybe this fear can hold us for long, and we can feed it if we are in those environments where others feed this same, let's say, propaganda. Then again, it can be religious propaganda as well as it can be from the government or wherever, you know. So I mean, even to question the fact that why would some good God, let's say, want to prevent such a natural development in her children, often his then. Why wouldn't he want them to gain knowledge? Yeah, because then he cannot stay in control, you know? So therefore, this way of projecting God or even believing in it, some may have had an agenda that is thought out, let's say. But anyways, this one uses threats and fear to keep others down, to hold others down, to not give them the full or whole truth, like keeping them infantile, is that word? And to not know when this God would punish, or if this curse or so on would ever be lifted, you know. Constant. Oh, I got a message now, I think from someone I kind of love. I don't know if there's a loving message back though. Let's see. No answer to that. This is someone, I don't know what's going on here. I don't understand. Yeah. Hmm. I don't know what's going on here. No clue. Anyways, I hope everything is fine there. So yeah, so that's a part of, well, I will keep talking about this a bit more, but that's a part of certain things that I've discovered that people may not agree with or may agree with, or I like to question things, but I don't like to only question certain things and not be allowed to question other things, because that is as incorrect in my view. Why would that be? That seems odd, right? So, but from this position, which is also sometimes in a smaller group or environment of people, that these, what is good and bad, is like weighed, or these rewards or punishments are like weighed out from these whomever are the judges, and oftentimes the people believing in a certain way then are the ones judging. God itself then would be also included there, but it also is never enough. You can never get rid of this like burden. You can never get rid of, however well you would live or anything, you can never be free. It's included in this kind of weird system. So yeah, so this is part of healing and part of evolving, as I see it. This thing that we have been through something that is very harsh, and we have deep psychological wounds from maybe our family, certain situations we have been through, and there then we need this, and we hold on to that. However, I mean, not realistic it is, or we can make it seem as it is, because we can mess with our own mind so much so as it seem very like yeah, I don't find the English words, but yeah, I mean, if we grow up with a lot of fears, and sometimes that is, I mean, if you look back in history, that is not, I mean, just Sinead O'Connor, for example, she was really really religious, even a priest, I think, for a while. Someone is here. And however, that was pushed aside. The good and the bad, oftentimes, very often, is we should really question when we fully believe in a certain group or a certain title or a certain whatever. That can really be mixed up. What we believe is the good or bad or whatever. We shouldn't like just take things for granted because it comes from a certain place, let's say. So, yeah, this child within, if we call it that, this one who is really good at fighting and surviving and have this guilt constantly, or the awareness of guilt, that is like so close under the surface, and that's why we need to be forgiven, sort of. We need to have something good protecting us on our side and help us survive, like, so that we will think that we will make it, like, yeah. But as long as we need this protector, we will also stay in that child state, let's say, in that role of being dependent and sort of victims in one way or another. So in this way, we just it's a very struggly way, if you say, but also we cope. We kind of, yeah, we're not in a privileged position. We just in the universe at large, we just cope, like, so. So we don't. we don't think about it at the time. We think it's like we get a sort of grace from God or whatever when we survive or so on, but we don't think that about that the same God or whatnot sent this storm. We don't think about that on this level. So someone is here. Impressive. But anyways, so also especially in these where there is most poverty, those environments, or where there's a lot of drug addictions or criminality or so on, that is also where you can find the most intense faith in these kinds of ways. And that is why. That is not something that is very surprising, because we just need that. If things are the harsher conditions, the more, I mean, we can't cope, yeah, just by ourselves. We kind of need to figure some ways to, and I'm not saying it's a lie. I believe very much in the spirit world and everything like that. But the thing that we don't have this within us, or that we have to trust in the outer, we have to comply, we have to be obedient, and we have to buy into someone else's description of what this is. That is part of the evolution, or the development of our greater perception of who we are. But it's not like, it's like the first step. And usually people figure or are drawn to spirituality when something is very critical or so on. So, but we become totally devastated if we don't project this image that can help us not feel hopeless. And so that soothes us somewhat, this image of the God that would protect us in these environments or these situations. So something that gives us safety, comfort, even basic things like physical rewards in ways like food, clothes, roof over our heads, and so on, or a family. I always was like this. I think that was part of a sort of basic sense of guilt that I didn't know where it stemmed from. I have sort of understood that later, but just by breathing, that I was like guilty for something. But anyways, I was always happy that I had roof over my head, things like that. I never took it for granted. It was like, wow, this is what I have now. I've always been very happy for what I have, even very basic things, not towards some, I don't know what God, but anyways, I see how this also almost like little crumbs in the desert or drops of water. In love relationships, that can be also a way of hooking someone. You just give them tiny drops, and they get all like, oh God, I'm going to like thirst to death if I don't. So you start clinging even more so to something that doesn't give you what you deserve or what you need or want or whatever. Anyway, so what is perceived as evil here is like physical threats or being abandoned, also usually by a social group, not the least. So to be abandoned alone and be at danger physically, like, and this goes very much in hand with like if you are abused children, they usually defend their parents very much because they need that protector. And that is a similar way as some people do with their religious views or whatever that protector would be perceived as. As I said, many forms of so quote unquote gods are out there. It could be a government, it could be like whatever. So, but we have to like see, is this really good though? I mean, or at least be able to question things without being, off with their heads kind of thing. So, yeah. So this sort of love and cruelty is very, very woven together. You can't separate them from this level of awareness, or the psyche aren't able to. So yeah. Well, therefore, you take on the guilt yourself because you cannot remove the protector. That is like impossible on this level. And you can't get away from that harmful environment, or you don't understand that you can. So, or children cannot often, maybe. So, uh, and also it's maybe the only source of love we know. So this emotional confusion is there, and that can be there also all our lives. I mean, it can be there as we are grown up. It doesn't have to be only as kids we feel like that. The same confusion can be there in various ways, because that is, and not the least in specific relationship, destructive, dysfunctional relationships in partnership as well, where that is where we feel the only source to love. So we cope with the harm or cruelty or whatever it is. So, women who go back to abusive men. But today I met a woman, or I saw her, try not to be judgmental and angry all the time, but she actually abused her man. And yeah, a really, really hard time with that person. Yeah, I mean, that was a strange one. And I wanted to control, and she probably is like that. Still, I don't talk to her anymore, but or she actually don't talk to me, first of all. But she wouldn't allow that I didn't answer my phone when she called or texts or so. I wasn't allowed to turn off my phone in her worldview. And I said, well, I do what I please. That's not. I mean, I've never had any or met any person that actually wouldn't. And we are just like friends talking sometime, or were then. So this was quite some time ago. And what, but in her world, I was like doing something that was not legal, sort of, or allowed. And yeah, very, very controlling person. And so it can go the other way around. We often talk about that. Like, it's more common, I guess, that men abuse women then, but it also is happening the other way around. So, and that is the same thing then. That people may return to the same people doing that. And this took a while for me to understand before I was in a similar situation, gradually confusing me more and more, until I realized that I had to get away, and luckily I did. And yeah, it still took a long time for me to not want to, to not have certain positive, there are always positives in certain negative situations, or oftentimes at least. And to realize that this is so bad. Yeah, that's something I should not be even close to in any kind of way, So, so if we think about this as a parental figure, like God figure, it's very odd with this love and generosity, and also some good whatever entity or father figure then. But if that one tortures some of the kids, is that a good one, really? I mean, everyone should be able to recognize that that is not a fact, right? But we need so much the safety, and also I think that goes very much in this, when things have been as they have been in previous years, not going to the fact of those things, but the the need for safety is so big is one thing, but also there is a limit to how many problems we can take at once. So therefore, maybe that is the thing with the person. I got some very, very short text response from now. I don't know if that is the case. We will see what happens. I have no clue. Anyways, yeah, it's just what it is. So, but anyways, in many cases, that is the thing. We cannot deal with too many things. So we just have to trust in some things or we decide that that is what we have to do. Like, so through this fear or to just trust or give our love, then we hope to get away from some suffering or pain or judgment or so on. And we aren't allowed to doubt it also. I think this goes very much for the situation that I've been previously with this vaccine and everything. We are just allowed to have an official feeling that is positive. We cannot question it. Like people got super aggressive. Some people, and at least so, we are just allowed to think of it positively. Like, and that is something that is a warning in itself that we cannot question things. So yeah, and those in that situation, whether it's in a religious situation or whatever, they don't even understand themselves that that's fear based, that is fear driven. You know. So because you have to have a certain maturity to be able to live with this ambivalence. Otherwise, it have to be black or white or good or evil or whatever. You know. But it's too much to deal with if you are in a crisis. Sometimes we cannot see that there is a mix of things. Certain things are dark or light. It's not black or white. It's like it's not love or hate. It can be very various degrees of whatever. So sometimes we become like idealistic and just wishful thinkers and don't want to look at problems at all. We just try to deny all negative things. That is also certain things that goes in certain spiritual, let's say, communities or ways of thinking. And just stay positive until everything becomes positive again. I mean, it could be a good thing to some degree, but that can also go wrong, you know. But many do, like they portray some with all the bad stuff and some others with all the good stuff. So to make the world possible to live in, like, or cope in, rather. This whole battle between God and Satan and whatnot. As I said, I have a strong connection still to Christianity, actually, but I don't believe in these things like in hell and because I've seen through that. This is a perception of our minds that we are stuck in, that we have to actually grow from sooner if not later. I mean, later if not sooner. Something like that. So that is what I see, but I don't know. So yeah, because this God, we can't blame that father or that whomever it is that is protecting us. We cannot blame that person. So we need to make up some sort of Satan or something else that is an opponent. We don't understand that that is God. Someone that is like this tempting or someone like too cocky, trying to be like God or whatnot, and also to prevent us to be more, to keep us small, humble, guilt-ridden kind of thing. So almost described as the opposite of this light then. But in those ancient traditions, that is not the case. There was no hell like this underworld of hell or some, that kind of thing. Also, the feminine wasn't denied or feared in such ways. So, and to only be positive is also can be destructive, and also it's very difficult because you have to like close your eyes to a lot of things. It's not that you should. People are actually able to do that still, it seems. So just stay unaware. So, but this is the thing. We can interpret things in certain ways and all have their rights to interpret whatever they want, but it can also become fixated like fanatic ways of perceiving. And that is the difference. Because if we think that we don't interpret things, if we don't understand that we actually do, we don't have maybe the right way of seeing and others are wrong, so we can judge them on this preset system of believing. And also, if something happens to people, I've heard this actually many times, even those that say that someone was born evil and also this is the most interesting thing when people say, actually those who even believe in previous lives, whatnot, and say that, oh, that I've heard this and I don't even understand how they can't hear themselves. When people say like, oh, that mean person that this happened to, it's obvious they were like punished, someone who got really sick or whatever it could be, and so they were doing something and they like were punished by whatever then. And interestingly enough, when they themselves happen to be in similar situations, that is never their interpretation. that is something that is just that just happened then. That's a very interesting. Yeah. And also that since you cannot question this whatever God, you have to like try to question yourself deeply and understand what's wrong with you all the time, not realizing that maybe it's the environment, maybe it's the ways of viewing the world that you have been taught, maybe these kinds of things, or some dysfunctional things around that may be why what's wrong. But you aren't allowed to question that, so therefore you have to figure out what's wrong with you, like. And then that if you feel bad or if something bad happens, that is like some people do that still to themselves as well, but usually not those who think others are judged that way. But if something happened, it's something you did wrong, so how can you fix that? Like, it must have been fair, sort of. Yeah, it's like, yeah, an abused child, like trying to figure out ways to put the blame on themselves so that this cruel parent can be right. Yeah. Because if it's not right, then this world is way too dangerous to live in. Like, so we need to survive, to protect, and like keep those systems at place, sort of in that on this level. So yeah. But it's the aim is to survive, like here. Anyways, I go on and on. I know. No one will listen to me, but I want to say it still. So when everything is in a crisis, then what we aspire to, even when it's the worst of the worst, we want to survive. That is when even we get sick, whatever, cold. I mean, yeah, nowadays that can seem like very extreme, but still, I mean, whatever it is, we first of all want to get well then. So we want to survive. That is like the first thing, but we always want more. We are more, therefore we want more. And the fact that we do is nothing bad. That is not a sin. That is our nature, and that is a very positive thing. But you, from that level, it feels very dangerous, though, or it feels like a sin. Yeah, and you're afraid to be judged also by people around, probably, and also just die or be in pain. Like, and you can't escape. You cannot escape here. You can't this fight and flight. You cannot do the flight. You have to keep struggling and fighting. Like, it's blocked because this is how life is, kind of, but it's not. We can go out. We can realize that we are free from this. But yeah, it feels like, or it could feel like a child that cannot escape their family, or someone starving cannot get away from where they are at the time, or so therefore we try to be like this protector God and protect those most valuable things in life. So, and many protective institutions are also in society, like, for example, police, they protect the law, or firefighter protect, or social worker protect the helpless, like, or so these can also symbolize, sometimes we want more and more of that to protect us as well. Can be something that is very much an emphasis on this level. But those who live in this way of perceiving things, they are also very socially aware and want to take responsibility for what's going on in the world. And that is a good thing, though, because you feel responsible, and you also are able to feel, to care for others. And meanwhile, you protect others, you also gain their love and respect and so on. So that is a sort of a reward in itself. So, yeah. But this can also go for how those who do protect, like police, let's say, for example, how they also may not be very flexible. Some, I'm not saying everyone, but this is how also they would be very enraged if, mocked by people they are there to defend, for example, or they demand respect, like, or maybe very inflexible when it comes to rules or regulations. Because protectors see dangers everywhere. And we can see that in very small situations. Like if you care for someone, you may, or at least someone, let's say a child or something like that, where you can't be there all the time or protect. You can start to see dangers very much because you want to save them or protect them. And many people who take on this responsibility feel like they are chosen sort of to keep other people in line for their own good. And that was the case also with this corona and everything. Like people started to say, oh, this place where they eat or whatnot have their chairs too close close to each other, and blah, but this doesn't follow the rules, or look at that. People were talking like that, really. And I was like, stop. I mean, we were so bombarded with all these things, so we started to feel that is our mission, to keep others in line, like, yeah. So this is like a parental feeling, and it can be both in positive and negative ways, of course, because we can also be very willing to forgive if someone are more humble than, or feel like ashamed for what they have done or whatnot. But it's also never clear. This can be very the so-called justice can be so harsh and make no sense, but we still have to accept it, like. So, but to oppose these, if we think of it as social protectors, let's say, the worst way to go by it is to contempt, like, or to refuse, like to just do the opposite or something, and so to challenge that, because, yeah, but then they feel in their right to, like, make this whomever to feel the justice, let's say. And that goes for religions and everything as well. And this, even if we talk about this whole, when you talked about Jews the other day, also, this God could be very cruel to even to the chosen whomever people, let's say. And that is interesting how that is like called the Jewish people, not the Christian people or the Muslim people, or they are not called the people. I just think that's interesting. Anyways, so that justice could be very harsh towards them, even, but even worse so to those who were outside the law. They didn't deserve any compassion at all, like. So, but what is needed to grow from this is bravery, courage, to not to get away from this fear, to lose a lot of things or be abandoned. So when we realize we cannot satisfy this whatever God it is fully anyways, so instead of like cope and fight and like strive and struggle, like for this to please this whatever it is, we have to find the courage to stand up to whomever it is, a bully, let's say, or whatever it is of sorts, because fear usually make us silence, because we feel that if we take a stand towards that one, we will have even more fear then, and then we become even more silent. But it's not like that. The more silent we are, the more fear we have, because we can't get it out. So someone is here now. I will soon end about this, but I wanted to get this out because this seems so. This seemed to be the case pretty much around in various ways. So we need to get over that like hurdle or that block. That's the only solution. Otherwise, we stay in that fight and flight mode. That's nowhere else. We don't get anywhere else. We stay in this reptile brain mode. We can't move forward until we realize that we are tired of this fear and refuse to make whatever we are making our gods then to that God or protector. If we have to hide from their wrath, if we don't have rights, if we cannot question things, and those kinds of things, then we decide that it's enough is enough, like. So yeah, socially, if we like don't accept authority, many have I have always had a difficulty with that. Never did actually accept that much, which is I was born like that. Maybe they talk about it sometimes as indigo children or whatnot. I don't know. I was just like that. I never could take that, and I didn't try to be rebellious. I just didn't. I as someone described this also, that, and I think about that with kids. For them to listen, it's not like just listen. Like they have to give us the mandate. I mean, we have to show that we are something to listen to, you know. And I felt like that always, like with the teachers and whatnot. They were angry at me, I can say. And even if I met doctors, whomever I met, I listen very much to myself, let's say, and I talk very much. So authority figures have no authority to me. It's not that I dismiss other people's knowledge and so on. I really like that, and I don't feel threatened by it. I just really like that. But when someone tried to be authoritative towards me, that have never worked well. So, um, so luckily I was like that. It have not been an easy path, I can say, but I prefer it. So, but it can also be those who, for example, if we talk about police again, someone who testify against colleagues in corruption trials or whatever. And that is when you find your own conscience, you say. But someone would even see that as a traitor then. It depends from what view you see it. Those who hold on to, especially in those very set environments, for example, as I mentioned, the Catholic Church there with all these horrible things that have been going on. There are so many things you can't even talk about it. But and I guess in many other environments or families or whatnot, yeah, you would be seen as a traitor if you talked about it. So from certain perspective or certain viewpoint, then if you betray a code of silence. So yeah, but it depends on where we are going, and if we want to grow, some people will try to preserve the system, keep the system, and there, because corruption is inevitable, there will always be some sort of corruption, but we have to understand how much of that is acceptable for all of our good, you know. But because we have to like make certain decisions, if we think about children again and parents or fathers, mothers, to have to find a line where what is acceptable and what not. It's not like you know, how far can we let something go. It's not more so that than even there black or white, like. But some people think that there is never, you know, you should just never ever break certain whatever it is you, yeah, certain rules you put out there. Yeah. But anyways, everyone need to find their own truth, obviously, and when it comes to everything. And we have to learn to live with the ambivalence. We live in this dualistic world, whatever we call it. And in monarchy or the traditions, the shamanic tradition I talked about, there is not good and evil. That is not talked about, or good or bad, or negative, positive. It's talked about as light or heavy energy. And some people can cope more so with energy that is heavy, for example, for me, and that is light for them. It depends. And when it comes to everything in nature, also other creatures as well, and so on. So it's not that something is actually good or bad in that sense, from their perspective then. So it depends. To preserve certain things can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, and to do revolution, let's say, can be good or not. So it depends. It's very much psychological also. How much fear do we want to live with, or are we ready to accept? So, and we move past this when we realize that our integrity, our personal integrity, is more important than being accepted. Then we have reached a new level. So we are guided by our own principles, our own morals, our own trust in our own ability also to discern certain things and not just take what is like put upon us, not like out of force, be driven by outer force, but rather our own principles. So, and that can also be an inner war, let's say. People talk about that usually nowadays, also about wars. Like, I mean, about this spiritual war, sometimes people say. But I think if so, that would be like an inner one, where there is a part of us that want to stand up, make a revolution, let's say, or refuse, or what it is. While there is another part of us that is afraid of punishment, that we break some sort of rule or law or even unwritten laws, let's say. Yeah. So, and we have to check with ourselves then, so we don't become those tyrants that we don't want, because we can become almost like that ourselves when we have this way of viewing things, or when we live from fear. Because this temptation is not the temptation. The followers are not the ones that are tempted. It's the leaders or God, whatever, or the protector. And the temptation is to become this tyrant, or for those in power to misuse the power. We don't have that, let's say, luxury, no, but we cannot misuse power if we don't have any. So the temptation always is on that side of the fence, or that side. It's not those who are dependent or fearful like that. So, but it's tyranny is protection that have gone too far, and it's a balance between rules and freedom that is needed. But many are very power hungry, and it's very tempting. So we need to find ways to understand how to not be, or rather to be free from that lust to rule, others specifically. Yeah. So sometimes we need to, symbolically kill that tyrant. Let's say maybe a teenager do whatever things aren't allowed. That would be a symbolic way to not follow in line, let's say. Or in revolutions, let's say, in society of sorts, that can also be the case, sometimes violently. But there is alternatives to violence, which is a more subtle way to be liberated from this temptation. And that is to see through the need for protection. And you cannot see through that need unless you understand more about who you are, that you are more than this physical being. So it's like mafia like situations with these certain religious and certain other ways in society maybe too, that this violence or disease, if you think about those um, uh, companies sell all those drugs, whatever, you know, the diseases sometimes or violence, whatever that is prevented, comes from them because they they gain money for it. Like, you know, they are both a threat and a security, let's say. So if we don't understand the source of the threat, then I mean the only way to see how we need the protection is to avoid to see where the source is, so to speak. Yeah. And if we pray to, let's say, God for to take away something evil or bad or whatever, we pray to the one who sent that, and we don't understand that on on this level. That is something that comes later when we grow, because we're blinded by our need to be protected, and we may not ever have had someone who could calm that fear. So yeah. And why do this happen? Why is it such a fearful world? Like, and why do oppression even exist? And why does this God, let's say, oppress then? And that is how, that's something we have to figure out, like our way of interpreting this. What is it like? And we need to find a new interpretation of who is this, whatever one ruling, let's say, God, and what world have this one created. And in relation to that, who are you? Who am I? And also how you fit in. Is that worth it? Is it worth to fit in and still deny yourself? Like, if we start to look at these questions, we start to discover more. So, and then we come to West, let's say in the medicine wheel, where it's about the mind and emotions and so on, and we still struggle there. It's in the north that it eases out of, but it's not the reptile brain here, so we have less fear, and we don't. It isn't always about survival. So, but we need to challenge this first. We need to challenge our reptile brain. We need to get rid of these basic fears, and that is something we also work in the West, but still, because that goes hand in hand with our our way of viewing our thoughts about the world, and so on, the stories we have built in both in our societies but also the ones that we have ourselves, to be able to question them. Yeah. And we can always go back and tell that old story again, but yeah, that's that. And also something that I've heard lately, I will just talk for 2 hours. If someone comes in and wants some cards, maybe I will maybe pick some cards anyways, just because. But I don't even think about left and right anymore as I did when it comes to, actually I feel like I'm an anarchist. I read these Kropotkin's the memoirs of an anarchist or something it's called, and I love that book. And then I don't know, I just felt the book itself is fascinating as a story, but maybe it's true, most of it, I don't know. But anyway, so I don't vote. I don't believe in the political system, but I don't try to preach that. What I wanted to say about that is that, to me, I don't see really that clearly. Previously, I was super, I don't know, I wouldn't say like super left. Have been little bit all over the place. Not all over the place, but not far right at least. But also very focused on environmental such things. But and the farmers' rights, whatever. But yeah, to me, I see that quite clearly now. I feel I may be wrong, but that it's very much so with those more. If you would call them, then I don't know how to discern that actually anymore. But if you call someone very far right, and those the things they want sometimes with revolution and sometimes violent revolutions, that is quite similar to what the far or if you then would call it far left then and the violence and revolution. I mean, the story about around it may be very different, maybe, but it's also it's almost like the circle is closed. I feel like more so than any of these, let's call sides, see it. I don't think that they do. And maybe it's not so close as I hear and view it. I'm not sure, but to me, it's not even possible anymore to label in that sense. I don't, because there are various things in. I mean, there are different. If I then would even think about it in a sort of a political way, like or scale whatsoever, I mean, there are certain things that fits more so in one or another way, but it's not like, at least I can't fit myself into that scale. I don't see myself agreeing with fully with any of it. Let's say if there even is, like, oh, never mind that. So I will pull some cards, but it's interesting to me, and I like to understand how other people think. This is how I think right now, and I can change, but I think it's important to question these things. I think it's very important, because if we don't, we are kind of we have to. I mean, we hurt ourselves and we hurt others, and we stay in pain and so on that we don't need to be in, actually. So yeah, that's why I think it's important. But so okay, now I will pull some cards and then I will go. Here we go. I still wonder what's up with this one. Anyway, maybe romance angels cards. It's Friday. I don't know. Maybe I will have to take a. No, first I have to. I have some indigo cards here even. First, I will take some Tarot of the Heart by John Holland. The romance angels felt too much this day. I wonder I wonder if I've done something wrong to that person. That I don't know. That is typical. Like, now I feel like I'm dragged into this whole thing that I talked about. No, not really. This one have not been mean to me, as far as I understand it. So anyway, we will just see. And now if I think about it as 4 piles, either related to astrology, if you have a fire sign, earth sign, air sign, or water sign in that order, or you can just choose pile 1, 2, 3, or 4. So first, fire or wands, then. Some message for you right now, if there is any message coming. Okay, there is. This comes from the crown chakra. Oh, so this is connecting to the higher realms very much. Take in information, not challenge, but channel, like try to open your the top of your head, like no, not doing that, just energetically, like it's described as a 1,000 petal lotus sometimes in how they describe it in India, at least in those traditions. And so think of it as a bud, and then it opens up and just like sit in that peaceful. Here in this picture, the crown chakra is very magenta or strong pink color, very like not like mildly pink, but yeah. But you can think of it as white or many colors or whatever you want, actually. Some see it as violet. So, and white contains all the colors, so that's a good thing. Yeah, that is for number one. Someone who needs to tune into that, connect to the spiritual realm rather than the self, let's say. That was it actually for that one. Number two, or earth signs, that is me. Whoop. Here is control. This is number 8. It looks like a warrior. It could also be like a justice card, but I think this is a strength. I'm not sure in this deck actually. But here it seems like someone having a helmet and some wings and a stone heart around their neck, like a jewelry. I don't think that it's just like a stone heart like that, but it's like, I feel like it symbolizes strength. And this one is very peaceful and shining, but also very aware. This person is very aware of their higher self, let's say, their soul, their greater selves. And they see also with these eyes behind, there is like a larger face like behind this person. And they are looking through these eyes of the soul or spirit, like trusting with what their inner see. And also wearing these wings as a shawl or something is almost like eagle wings. I think that also represents that, trusting their vision here. I also see this number 8 just recently. I saw that as a fighting symbol for the 8. Far back it was like a red 8, also infinity symbol, but here it's upright and it was on their flag of sorts also. But yeah, I don't know about that. But she also have a red dress of sorts. I don't think this is a fight she wants to be in. It's just needed. The helmet is also golden, and I feel that is a message of clear intent or really listening in the guidance of spirit. So, or giving up control, also giving up the egotistical or limited control to something greater or higher. So, oh, interesting. And then for number 3, or air signs. Then we have the Hanged Man, but here it's called observe. So the message for the number 3 is there are 4 faces in each corner here. It's also to listen in from the heart, not do anything, just be calm. This is a little bit the message for all this, but yeah. And listen to maybe 4 others who have different perspective than you, just to, without like discussing or anything, just observing and listening to what others think and view, how they see things, without trying to be judgmental, just listening and taking it in and trying to see with the heart, trying to understand from that level. Because as those things that I talked about previously, it comes from something, and we all have gone through that process of development. We have all been there, and maybe we don't remember when we aren't there, and we hear others say what we think is crazy stuff or limited stuff or what it is. But it's something that is also, we can also happen to come in those situations again where we fall into those traps or whatever it is, jealousy, whatever it is, get that fight, that survival reptile brain triggered. So I think this person, whomever this is for number 3 or air sign, need to just stay calm and see with understanding how others view things, and see that we all are in our development. One thing that is kind of funny, I think, every time it happens, although I think it's also very stupid of myself. Sometimes when I've learned something and I meet someone who haven't understood just that particular thing, I wonder why. Like, as if everyone would know at the same time everything, or as if I know everything. I mean, I didn't just maybe a week ago or a year ago or previously. So why should I expect everyone else like to be exactly where I am all the time? Like, or also when it comes to those things that I haven't discovered yet. Darkest fear come up here. 9 of Swords, or yeah. This is the dark, what is it called? Like Night of the Soul kind of thing for this person. There's a man here that goes through some heavy stuff in their thoughts process mainly. Anyways, yeah. And to understand that this is not like we don't have to judge those who are on those levels, but we may have to understand it. So we don't have to buy into it or believe whatever others believe, or how others see it, but we need to also understand, like find a way to see, okay, that's where they are, and they cannot stay there. Life changes. They will have to sooner or later to evolve. So we can maybe plant some seeds in that way for them to discover that it's possible to stop that struggle, let's say, maybe. Anyways, but they will anyway. Life itself always initiates us. 22 10 22. No, it was not 2 2 202 22. It was like no, no, never mind. Okay, number 4, or water signs then. What is, I just wonder, I maybe have to pick a card for that person, but I can't, because if someone understand who I talk about, but I don't think so. Who would it be? That person. And that one wouldn't listen, I don't think. So, okay, 444. First I must think about this one. All right. Water sign and number 4s. What is the message to you then? Whoop. So this is challenging times. 5 of Wands. So this is someone having shield, trying to protect themselves quite. This is people aren't they don't have same way of viewing things. They're like trying to build something, but they don't go in the same directions and so on. Yeah, someone is going through challenging times. And then we have 2 of Cups, which is coming together. This is a partnership and love. 2 people that share love and want to go in the same direction. Very beautiful card. So I don't know, someone feels a little bit isolated, but at the same time connected, or the possibility to not. Someone is guarding themselves, but they don't have to. There is so much love and protection here with someone else that they may love, but they don't dare to trust it or something like that. And then we underneath here I find a blossom. This is the Judgment card. This is about to change those energies. So I will actually pull a card for whomever. I don't do that usually. Oh, then the Observe card come up again. I have to think about. No, this was for Earth. That was for, I guess. When did I get this? I don't even remember now. Maybe it was Air. Anyway, number 12. This is the Hanged Man. And this in very old school decks. The first deck, this was the Traitor. They were like hanging them upside down. So, and like torturing them or whatever. We don't care about that. But sometimes that is I don't know, someone that doubt others a little bit, and stay silent and question things a little bit. And maybe this is also someone that listens to rumors or something like that. That like there, since these four people are around and this person just don't react or don't communicate, and that is the advice here. Actually, to not like take in. Previously, I said the opposite thing about the same card, but now when I look at this now, I feel that these people around here want to influence or something this person at the center with their gossip or stuff. And the advice is to not like to just don't listen, not don't yeah, to ignore that, to ignore those voices. Well, I don't know. Anyways, that was that. So now I will end. Oh, again, I thought I would do a short one now, but at least I said what I said. I said what I wanted to say, and I've said it before in some other channel, maybe similar things. And I do believe that one thing that would be a measure of actually growing and developing is that you can change your views. And I'm not saying you always have to. Some things just feel right and continue to feel right. But and this is one of the things. These, although I found different ways, for example, this kind of medicine wheel and so on, to describe this process. I've heard various ways to describe it, the chakras and whatnot. And so in that sense, it differs, but it's still, this makes so much sense to me. I hope it does to someone else that can get something out of it. So yeah, then I will end. I thought this would be a short one, but I could sit and talk for a long time by myself apparently. So I won't though. I will just end now in a few minutes. If there's something else I want to say, I don't think so. I don't understand though. I don't have to understand. I really don't have to understand other people's views. I just have to, yeah, do my thing and see whatever happens. And also, that is another thing. People are, I mean, everyone is responsible for themselves. And yeah, you can't like resolve something with someone who won't resolve it with you, you know? That's very impossible. You have to let that be. And hopefully, if possible, that is one thing that I've learned against my will, so to speak, last years, pretty long, when I have been lied about and a lot of things. And I should just not give a shit about that. Just let them do their thing, whatever. It's not mine. And people who take that in as truth or whatever it is, that is also not mine. It's theirs. I can do my thing and I don't care anymore, which is awesome. So I'm glad for it afterwards now, because I care so little about what others think altogether. Of course, you want to be understood, and what you at least want. What I at least wanted is to get the chance to say my side, like say my piece, so to speak. And that is not always the case. Sometimes you just have to understand that, well, even if people misunderstand, even if people don't understand, that's just how it is. That's not mine to rectify. They have to understand what they do, and if they don't, that's on them, So, but it sucks also sometimes when yeah, it does, but it is as it should be, I guess. Whatever. Anyways, but today I had a great experience with someone that I really like, that I connected with more again after some time not being in. Not that we have been on bad terms, but something happened that was like, a little bit of a situation of sorts, where no one meant anything bad, but it clashed a bit. And so, where I also very harshly, you could say, I stood my ground, as I have sometimes preferred to keep the peace previously, but I think I feel so self-sufficient in some sense, or self-confident maybe. I mean, I don't need others like that. I need others, of course, everyone does, but I don't have a fear of losing others, as I may have had before. And so, yeah, it was anyways a little bit of a harsh situation. But that is, I feel very resolved now today, actually, and that is a good thing. So I feel that's getting, everything will be fine there, and that I appreciate so much, because I felt a really good connection before, and I hope and I think that will continue now then. But yeah, in all situations you cannot know, and you cannot influence others if their attitude changes, or they like become more so like frozen, if you say, or something, for whatever reason. If they don't give you the chance to at least give your side of something, if it's even connected to that, I don't know, in that situation, but yeah, then what can you do? Like, you can just let go, see what happens, right? So yeah, I will end this right now anyways, and I don't know, maybe do a little bit of a ritual. Yeah, and that is something I did. I continue, as I said, develop these things that I do, and I got too open. I picked up too much, but then I had to like prepare like for 2 days or so when doing a mediumship reading to really be concentrated now. And then it went back to sort of normal when I'm not too open. But that is really a balance for me when starting new things, working in new ways, to find that fine balance in how to be open but not too open. But now I feel I'm back in focus anyways. That's good. Yeah. When it comes to that. Yeah. And also I'm starting a little tarot class online. I have one here face to face with people, which I love. But I'm also starting one online. I think sometimes I feel like I start too many things. I love all the things that I do, but they also, I mean, they are so fun and I love it. So yeah, I want to do those things when others want it. I want to provide it if I can, for sure. So yeah, I do think though, when it comes to, I shouldn't like ramble too much about personal things here. How professional is that? I should be very professional. I'm just close. That's who I am. That's who I am. But I won't do too much here. But I don't feel really I like a frosty thing for whatever reason that I don't get exactly now with someone. But at the same time, I feel that if it was like super harsh, then I wouldn't get an answer actually. So I feel that this will hopefully be resolved somewhat. Yeah. What do you think? Do you have any cards for me or something? No. It will be. We will see what happens. I will just stand now then. Take care, everyone, and many blessings to each and every one of you. And someone said also, there is a law like when you, from where you enter in, you must withdraw, and that is like a Which law? I don't know. But that's true though. So I will withdraw right now from here. Take care. Bye bye.